Hey everyone, this is Brandy Green and my friend Dustin Pari. And
You guys
you,
doing?
you should know by now that we're from Ghost Hunters International.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what have you been doing for the last 12 years? Um,
Right. Living your life happy and free.
so we have been doing this little behind the scenes series for a number of cases that we did together on the show. And tonight we are going to talk about the episode titled The Ghost Child of Peru. So it was my first time ever going to South America. I don't know, were you there before, Dustin?
If I was, I don't remember going there before. I think it was my first time in South America, and I always wondered who like entitled these episodes and such, because some of the titles that some of these things get, like this one actually made sense, but who came up with them?
No, it's totally true. There are some that I really have to look at and I have to actually watch the episode because it does
Right.
not
It doesn't
ring
make
any bells. No.
sense. This one at least makes sense, though. This was a good one.
And this is a pretty cool one. So right off the bat, you first see apparently the GHI team arriving in a small little airplane, which never actually happened.
No.
Yeah, no, we went to this aeroporto,
Arrow.
and it was like this small tiny plane that they wanted to get footage of us pretending that we were getting in
Yeah.
disembarking from. But
I don't know. I think they were trying to make us feel like we were Josh Gates. Like, let's try to give you that, Indiana Jones experience. I mean, we weren't on any, beautiful charter flights or anything. We weren't flying first class, but um, we didn't have to go on the tiny little plane.
no, it was really, really funny. And whatever. Anyway,
Anyway,
um,
we were not on the tiny plane to Fantasy Island.
no. So in this episode, actually, we have the first cast shakeup that I was a part of. We lost Andy Andrews, and I don't remember why. I think he just wanted to spend more time at home, to be
Yeah, I
honest with
think
you.
that was it.
And then we gained another cast member. Dustin, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we brought on board Angela Alden, a young lady from Florida, from here in the States, and she made up with us for the first time down in South America and became part of the team there. So these cases, I'm not sure if they're flip-flopped in the way that we filmed, the next one or two, the South America tour, but that was definitely when she first joined up with us there.
Right. Which I mean, I suppose is good because in addition to her, we actually had again one of the first guest investigators, I think, of the entire series for
Yeah, I think so.
sure while I was there.
Yeah, I don't recall any other special guests prior to that, and if so, if I'm missing one, I apologize. But was it Paul? Was that the gentleman's name? Paul.
Paul,
Yeah.
apparently he was friends with one of the other cast members,
Yeah.
and he just so happened to live in Peru,
Right.
and super into ghosts. So he
Yeah.
joined the team briefly while we were there. Uh, I I do remember an instance in the car when I was trying to get the case download,
Right.
and there were some antics that were
Shenanigans.
played on him.
There were shenanigans played on Paul, indeed, because Paul, Paul being from Peru, being our native there, I believe he was friendly with Rob, and we're driving around in the car, and you're doing the download, and we had the heat cranked all the way up, and it's already hot enough, and Paul's trying to just respond to your lines and go back and forth in a very general and kind way, and he's beating up with sweat, and I remember remember at one time he goes, I don't recall it being so hot. It was great. Poor fellow was just falling apart back there.
Well, hey, I have to tell you, when I joined the team, um, there were antics played on me too. Like
Never happened.
everyone was trying. yeah, like you have to do that
Yeah,
with
that's it.
with a new team member. When I joined the team, I know everyone was trying to scare me all the time, and I didn't really scare ever. I
No.
don't think.
I think the only time I saw you scared was when you saw local cuisine at places. I remember one of my favorite Brandy Green lines ever. We were coming through one of the hotels and they were cooking, and Brandy goes, "It smells nice, but I bet it doesn't taste nice." It's like, oh, Brandy. But you probably were right. Usually it did not taste very good at all.
No,
Yeah.
no. In my experience, that was totally accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so we gained Angela, we
Yeah.
gained Paul for the Peru episodes.
Yeah.
And so Real Felipe Fortress was this huge military fort
Mm-hmm.
that later became a partial museum, like an active history museum.
Right.
But there were still active duty military personnel there that were stationed there.
Yeah.
This was in Callao, Peru, not too far from Lima. I think it was just kind of outside the city limits.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive. Wasn't too bad.
It was pretty cool, though, I have to say, walking up to this giant fort
Yeah.
and seeing these fully dressed military personnel, these guards, like in salute formation, like greeting us as we walk through the threshold.
Yeah, I remember they have a drawbridge, which I think was one of the claims too, was the spirit of a lady or someone was seen on the drawbridge, and they were all lined up there with the swords out and everything. And they looked like, to me, they remind me of like little toy soldiers, like from like a Christmas cartoon or something. You know, there was all red, white, and blue, not for America, but just for the colors of their uniforms. When I remember they had like gold buttons and everything, and really, and I remember also, I remember taking a photo outside the fortress. They had a fountain that reminded me of the WKRP in Cincinnati opening montage for the show.
Cincinnati WKRP.
And this beautiful fountain out in the front. So that was a really cool place. It was a very nice entrance for us. Usually, you didn't get such accolades when you arrived, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, we actually felt like we were somebody when
Yeah.
we got to the
Once.
one time. So our client, I remember our client, he was David Rivas, and so he worked not only as our client, but he was also worked as our fixer while we were in Lima.
Right.
And really super nice guy, super plugged in to just the area in general. I know that when he wasn't working in television, he actually conducted tours up to Machu Picchu.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I was so upset. Like, still now in retrospect, like I wish we could have had, like that should have been our outing.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been.
Forget the nightmare hike in South Africa. Like, let's go to Machu Picchu.
That would have been amazing. I remember wanting, really, when we were in South America, I remember wanting to go to Machu Picchu. And I remember, because we get that one day off, like per week, I remember looking at, like, could I afford the plane flight, the plane fare for the flight out to Easter Island? Because I really wanted to go to Easter Island. And I was like, well, we're only in South America so many times, and that didn't happen either. So no Machu Picchu, no Easter Island.
I know. Funny enough, I just heard from David, and he randomly he sent me a message, and he was like, "Well, if you ever come back to Peru, I'll take you up to Machu Picchu." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try to find the money."
Right, maybe next week.
Great
guy, very nice.
Yeah, that was a regret for sure. But as we talked about, we were on a very tight filming schedule.
Yeah.
We only had 24 hours between like the cast to go over all of our footage.
Oh yeah, for the evidence review, yeah, you get the whole next day, and that was it. But like you'd film for 2 nights, sometimes 3 nights, and then you get 1 day for evidence review while they do B-roll. They go and get all the pretty shots of the castles and things, And then the next day we're there doing we do the case download from the team evidence review. And then we go right from there to talk to the client. And then sometimes it was back to the hotel and travel. And sometimes it was just sleep that night and travel the next day. And then you get to a new place and you get a day off and then you do it all over again. And we would do that. I kind of feel like it was always like 6 to 8 weeks at a minimum that we were away.
Yeah, initially that's what it was. We were on the road for over a month initially.
Yeah,
And
it's a
we
month and
would,
a half to 2 months, like every time.
yeah, and we would get to come home for like 3 days. It was
Yeah.
literally just enough time to say, hey everyone, wash your clothes, restock, and get back. So
Yeah.
I was always confused, like where I was, what
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but there were often times that I would be somewhere and I wouldn't remember like right away which country I was in until
Yeah.
they started speaking to me.
Yeah, there were times I woke up in the hotel, like completely, like you don't know what time it is, you know what time zone you're in, no idea. Like I just landed here yesterday. Where the heck am I? I've been on the road for 6 weeks or so, and I remember checking the currency to see like what country am I in now? Because I really have no clue anymore. Like it's a hotel, it's a castle, it's dark. We film all night, we sleep during the day, wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over, and it's like who the hell knows what's going on? You know?
Right. And I still have like all of that currency left over that I have no idea what to do with.
Yeah, but you should cash it all in and try to go to Machu Picchu. But
Ooh, maybe. Do you think I might
maybe,
have enough?
yeah, maybe there's inflation happened in one of those countries or something, and now you've got some money. Like who knows?
David, if you're listening, I'm coming.
I'm coming. Get the money.
All right.
So what was the case like? Like I remember a couple of the things that happened there.
Yeah, so there were claims of apparently the feeling of wanting to jump off the rooftop and commit suicide.
Right, one of
Um,
the towers because when it was fully an active fortress before, they were being like invaded or something, and one of the young military members that was there saw the people coming, like the other army coming, and like just jumped to his death. Like he was that afraid of fighting anyone. And I
right.
think that's what they were saying. Like that feeling would kind of overtake people that were in that tower.
Yep. And then there was the claim that a small boy, a small child, was seen wearing a sailor
Hmm.
outfit throughout the location. And
Right.
then I think, just voices, the typical like whispering,
Yeah.
disembodied voice kind of thing. Right.
I think there was a lady involved with the drawbridge, if I remember correctly. Like they thought they saw a woman out there somewhere. If I remember that right.
Right.
But you and Barry, I think, had a good experience with the museum part, right? Wasn't that where the little sailor boy was?
Yeah, so I think he was seen like outside of I think it was called the governor's residence or something like that. It was like a portion of this fort.
Hmm.
And we were investigating this area that was now just like a museum. It had like guns and different things in showcases.
Yeah.
And we were in there. I remember it was Barry and we had Snapper, who was our camera guy through much of our time on Ghost
Yeah.
Hunters International, and
He was the best.
he's deeply missed. He was a very good guy. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But he was filming and he was also running audio, so we kind of lucked out because sometimes when we were investigating, if you drew the short straw,
Yeah.
you got the producer, you got the camera guy, you got the
Yeah.
sound guy, and then yourself and whoever else you're investigating with.
Right. It's a big group.
Right. And
Yeah.
so we lucked out. It was just Barry and I, and then Snapper. And we were in this museum section, and I think, I don't know, I think Barry was taking the full spectrum shots. And we were looking at the photos in real time, like every snap we took, we would review. And he captured what, everyone knows I'm a skeptic, but I swear it looked like a little boy in one of the glass showcases.
Yeah.
And we tried. What they didn't show on the episode was, I think we spent like a good hour trying to recreate it. We had Snapper walking by with his, illuminator, like hitting the cases differently. I mean, everything we could think of, we tried to recreate it. We couldn't.
Right. There was never enough time to show the efforts that the team and production went through to try to recreate those things when we were able to see it in real time and be like, could that have been something else? I mean, because obviously nobody wants to watch a whole show of people just walking up and down trying to cast shadows and things to see if you can recreate something. But I think it was, to the benefit of everyone to know that we did go through those lengths to try to, make those efforts to see, could this have been something natural that's occurring? And in the case of that, like I remember it really stood out from a lot of the things that we'd seen over the years.
And I think that the big question was, well, I think there were maybe a couple military uniforms on display in a couple of the display cases. But even with that said, trying to recreate all of the light motion, all of the movement, everything in that room, we never recreated it, not even close. And it wouldn't have been proportionate to anything in any other uniforms in that room. So it was just
they were all
very
adult
odd.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else in that museum was adult size for the troops that were there and everything. Nothing was for the size of a child. So yeah, I think that reflection, the way it was captured was amazing,
Absolutely. And so I know that you got to investigate with a new cast member. Do you remember anything about that?
I get to spend some time with Angela, and I kind of felt like when I was on Ghost Hunters and GHI, they always put the new people with me quite a bit, which I always thought was kind of like a compliment. Like maybe I make people feel comfortable, like we just have fun, like get to know each other a little bit and let the audience get to know people a little bit. And I remember, I believe it was in one of the guard towers where we did get to hear what sounded like a conversation going on in the room, but we weren't able to record it. But while we were in there, we were able to hear it with our own ears, these other voices that were happening in there. And I think those disembodied voices, I've had experiences at different places where you actually hear it, but it doesn't get recorded. It's kind of like the opposite of the EVP that we get. So it's always kind of interesting how that kind of works too. Never really made much sense because if you're listening to it, you should be able to record it. And this was one of those cases where we just didn't have opportunity to. But we go back and we'd always check the production tapes and stuff too. And another effort that we'd go through to try to see, was it clearer on here? Maybe it was captured on the camera audio, and sometimes it just wasn't. But I remember too, there was some place in there, I don't know if it was in the museum or where, but they had, it looked like a fish tank, like with bones and remains and stuff in there too, which is just, sometimes it's creepy, sometimes it's kind of cool. I think in this case, if I remember, it was something to do with like unidentified military members or something that they had kept, like they were part of the regiment, but no one knew who they were, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that, if this is the right location, again, fuzzy memories, everyone, like seriously. Sure. I believe that Angela and I did investigate that room where the remains were, and we had very odd knocking on the door, but we debunked it and we managed to figure out it was the way that the airflow was coming through and it was knocking the door back and forth. But I mean, I think we discussed this before. We worked with a lot of human remains, like more than you would stateside.
For sure. For sure. They keep it on display a lot. I remember someplace in Italy or something too. I remember they had like supposedly the body of a saint that was still in there.
That was Chesky Krumlov.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Yep. That was odd. And I remember production being like, "Oh, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this." And they brought me in. I'm like, "I do not love this.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like sacrilegious. Like I don't want to investigate this."
It was super weird. But that's for another time.
Human remains.
So I think, one other thing, I think that this is, because Real Felipe Fortress, it was, I believe, constructed during King Philip V's, like, reign of like, the area.
Let's say reign of terror. That sounds better. That's what
well, the funny thing is, even though I grew up around like musical theater, my uncle is like a Tony Award winning Broadway producer. I should know these things.
You should.
Never in my life saw The Sound of Music. And Dustin and another cast member decided to give me a little crap about my line about King Philip V
Yeah.
and his reign in Spain. And I had no idea
why.
what they were talking about.
Right, you were trying to do the case download and you kept talking about it. We kept doing the rain in Spain most falls mainly on the plane. But
Now I know.
now you know. Yeah.
Okay, so Real
Where were-
Felipe Fortress.
Yeah.
I believe that we actually brought forth a number of pieces of footage that we deemed the location haunted.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it was there or somewhere else. There's another place over there where I saw like a little silver shadow of what looked like a child, but it was just like silverish in color. I want to say it was in South America. But yeah, I remember that particular fortress had enough evidence. I think it was one of the places where we captured more physical evidence in terms of, images and stuff where normally it's very hard to come by. But that place
Well,
is
look,
really good for that.
I've never done like the math. I've never gone through every single case and,
Yeah.
which ones we deemed haunted, which ones we didn't. But I feel like our show, in comparison to the shows that were on at the time or the shows that have come since,
Yeah.
we really focused our attention on debunking. I mean,
Right.
that was kind of our sole goal to what we were doing.
Well, I think it was good for so many reasons. And also it gave a lot more credence to when something was captured that we could not explain because we'd go through different lengths to try to figure things out, like measuring infrasound and recreating experiences and trying to look at things from different angles and see what was what. A lot of times I think, and I always had the problem, as I think many of us did, with saying haunted or not haunted because it just seemed kind of hokey. And it's like, we were here 2-3 nights, you've been here 30 years. How do we tell you that your experiences aren't valid? Maybe just the night we were here, we didn't capture anything or witness anything. So we did a lot of middle of the road, like we didn't capture anything we would consider paranormal while we were here, which I always thought was honest because it's not saying the whole place is crap. We're just saying while we were here, we didn't capture anything, which I think was probably more the case than things that we were like, this place is crazy,
Yeah, and I mean, look, so David, he was also our fixer, but he was well tuned into the history of the location, like
Right.
doing personalized tours up to Machu Picchu. Like, of course,
Yeah.
he knows the area. And he was very thrilled with, what got brought forth to him. There were
Yeah.
times, though, that some of the clients had a hard time with what
don't
we
know.
found or didn't find.
I don't know what case it was, but there was one where there was a clock that was moving and he kept thinking the ghost would stop the clock. And when I went up into the clock tower, I found a lot of nesting right up against the pendulum. And I was like, if you just touch it with, the top of your finger just for a second, the whole pendulum stops. Like there's birds nesting all around this. Like if they fluttered, there's a good chance they could stop it. And the guy was just adamant that no, a ghost was stopping the clock. And I was like, you just got to think that. And then eventually I was just like, you know what, regardless, here's what I found, because I just can't have this conversation anymore. But sometimes the clients would get upset, and they would get mad that we didn't find anything, but sometimes you just don't.
I mean, I don't think that they read the fine print when they signed the appearance and location contract.
Oh, yeah.
Because we weren't,
Yeah.
I mean, again, we weren't like 99.9% of the shows. We walked in
Yeah.
and we were like, we're not going to tell you it's haunted if we don't think it's haunted. Like, that's not
Right.
what we do.
Yeah. I would have
But
liked to have been haunted. I would have liked to have seen more stuff, but it's just
Oh.
not the way of it.
for sure. So we talked about previously about some of our group outings. A lot
Yeah.
of times wineries that never made air for good reason. But this one, we didn't do an outing on camera, but we did one as like just a team. And
Yeah, just for fun.
We went to a place called Jucapukliana, which is this pyramid, kind of like a ziggurat, actually, in Lima, Peru. It literally sits against like office buildings. It's right there in the heart
Right.
of
It's in the
Peru.
middle of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Cool.
always thought that would have been the place to do a team outing. Super cool
Yeah.
place, lots of history, like thousands of years worth of history. They did human sacrifices in there. That should have been an outing.
I remember this is the first time I had seen the can't remember what type of dog that they have there, but they're like black hairless dogs, but they're like big. I
Yeah,
remember seeing those running around the grounds there.
they're
That was cool.
the chupacabra dogs. That's what a lot of people
Yeah.
think chupacabras are.
Right, yeah, they were just snarly little face running around. Yeah, it was great. They remind me kind of the things from the Ghostbusters movies, like that were running around, those big statue dogs, you know, like those, but slender. But yeah, it was a really cool place. That was a great outing. But yeah, again, not filmed for TV, so, but it was cool. Good times.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think so. This was an hour-long episode, the Real Felipe Fortress.
We had a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I would love to go back to Peru. I mean, if I had the money, of course.
Of course. Of course.
I mean, we
Yeah,
are
I would go back
really
there too.
wealthy. We're living off of the royalties.
Yeah, still doing that. Yep, indeed. But yeah, Peru's definitely one of the countries I would like to revisit again for sure. It was very pleasant. The people were really nice. And it just it was a good time all around. But yeah, it would have been nice to do some more sightseeing down there and spend a little more time, but just wasn't in the cards there. You remember sometimes like the production would even come back home for like those 1 weeks. Like if we're overseas in Europe, they'd like go to Amsterdam, they'd go here, they go there, because they're like, why fly all the way back to? Most of them are out of LA. Like why fly all the way back there for like 4 days and fly back here again? Like they just stay there.
Yeah.
That was cool. But the rest of us were coming.
Some of our crew like literally lived only we lived on the road, but they truly like never went home for like 2 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
from our show to another show and like back and forth. And I remember some of them did like I can't remember the name of it, like the fishing boat shows, the Alaskan like king crab shows or whatever the hell those things were. They would just go from show to show doing this stuff. Like it was insane.
Yeah.
Very cool. But they did a great job, though. God bless them. They did a great job, all those guys and ladies. Really good work. So that pretty much wraps up the Real Felipe Fortress, and we hope you guys enjoyed this fuzzy memory recap as we try to go down memory lane and not remember what we can and share with you. And thanks so much for watching. And Brandy does a great job putting all these things together. So thank you, Brandy, for getting all these crazy ideas. As you can tell, she's the one. She still has all the case files and all these things ready. I just kind of show up and try to remember where the heck I was.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.